leadership at the top, and the complexity of many issues that can't be understood by an uninformed public make it very easy for well-heeled, well-financed, well-informed lobbyists to sort of rule the day in the legislature and elsewhere. How do we cope with and overcome these temptations? Well, I think we've heard a lot today that addresses that issue, and I'd sort of like to summarize and maybe put into my own words how I think we can and must do that. We must have a moral compass that is geared to the ethical values of a democratic, again with a little d, society. What are those ethical values? Well, during my almost 40 years of work in the public realm in some form or another, either as a private sector lawyer and planner or as a government official and employee, I've had the occasion to think about that. In fact, when I agreed to go back to the department the second time, I started by making a list of those things that I thought were very important and that I would like and hopefully would govern my second term at the Department of Community Affairs. It was based on lessons that I feel that I learned, hopefully, over the years, imperfectly, I know, but I came to believe were very, very important to an honest and just society and government. What are those lessons? Lesson number one. There are ethical values that are essential to good democratic government. In other words, they sort of form an ethical roadmap for our conduct. What are these values? First, integrity, honesty, and truthfulness. Transparency, openness, and accountability. Fairness and inclusiveness. Avoiding even the appearance of impropriety and conflict of interest and politically motivated decisions. These are values to live and work by, and if adhered to and respected and followed, will serve our state well and give us individual peace of mind. Lesson number two. The ethical tone of an agency is set at the top. I was very fortunate to work for two governors who not only let me and the agency I headed do the right thing, they insisted that we do the right thing. I was always impressed and very proud when they emphasized to agency heads in our agency head meetings that we had been hired to do the right thing for the people of Florida, that we were to obey the law and to take that message back to our staffs. In my experience, there is nothing more demoralizing to an agency staff than to have their work, their recommendations disregarded and without regard for the law and for obvious political reasons. I'll share one story with you when I was sort of on my way out of the department the second time. A controversy arose in the Green Swamp, one of Florida's designated areas of critical state concern. A person had decided that he was going to create a Wild Kingdom type development a la Disney in the Green Swamp. Without permits from the local government, he went out, started constructing buildings, etc. Was charged with stealing animals from the Tampa Zoo to put in his development. That came to the attention of the department's critical area staff, who carefully investigated the situation, researched the critical area rules, and came to me with a recommendation that this was in gross violation of the critical area rules. Because I was always reluctant to take enforcement action unless I was absolutely sure that it was warranted, I devoted my own personal time to carefully reviewing the regulations, the law, recommendation, all the facts, and I came to the conclusion that the staff was absolutely right, so we initiated enforcement action, which was appealed to the Florida governor and cabinet. I carefully explained to the governor and cabinet the work that the staff had done, the investigation that had taken place, the facts that we had uncovered, what the requirements were of the critical area, and gave them my word that I had personally reviewed and come to the conclusion that they were right. I certainly was qualified to give them that advice, being both a lawyer and a planner. I was astonished that following the plea from this developer to the cabinet to let him go forward, that a member of the cabinet, who's no longer on the cabinet, startled me by saying, I think the Department of Community Affairs has completely overreached. They're way out of line. They should get out of the way and let this man do his business. Well, I was floored, but not so much so that I could not respond as tactfully as I could by stating, it is demoralizing to agency staff to be criticized for doing the very work that the legislature and you, the governor and cabinet, have given them to do. It had a good outcome because that cabinet member then dropped his position on it, and the governor and cabinet proceeded to vote to uphold the enforcement action. But it is absolutely important that if we are going to serve the public interest, and that we are going to carry out, implement, and enforce laws that have been adopted by the legislature and rules that have been adopted by the governor and cabinet, that they get back up, that someone has their back. Lesson number 3. Integrity, honesty, and truthfulness are vital to an agency and its mission. Now, obviously, these 3 ethical values have a close relationship with each other. As the late Edward Murrow, who was a journalist noted for his high ethical standards, once said about his profession, to be persuasive, we must be believable. To be believable, we must be credible. To be credible, we must be truthful. Without these values, integrity, honesty, and truthfulness, any agency will lose its credibility and its mission eventually will fail. Lesson number 4. Government must be transparent, open, and accountable to the press, to the affected public, the agency's constituency, and to the general public. The agency's decision-making process should be carried out in public, and its decisions should be documented in the public records. And the agency should always be able to explain how and why its actions are legally defensible. And this means admitting mistakes when they are made. I was so surprised to experience a situation in which the department was excoriated in public by admitting a mistake. This was the situation. In reviewing a comprehensive plan amendment, department staff had recommended that it be found in compliance. That decision was challenged by citizens. And during the course of preparation for the final hearing, agency staff came to the conclusion that they had been wrong. The errors they had made were pointed out, and they were in a quandary as to what to do about it. What were they to say at hearing? Because they were informed that the citizens were going to subpoena them to appear at the hearing and give testimony, and they would be under oath. And so they came to me and said, what is it we're to do? I had no trouble in responding immediately, tell the truth. If we have made mistakes, if you have made mistakes, then you have to own up to them and confess them. So they proceeded to inform the other side, the attorneys for the local government and the landowner, that they had made a mistake and they would be reversing the position that they had previously taken in the forthcoming hearing. I could not believe the outrage from the attorneys for the local government and